Derbyites, we're back for yet another Golden Globes. And, you know, I say it every year, but it is one of the high holy days for us awards prognosticators, fans, and crazy people. And it's the first one of the year to really kick things off. We're all socially distanced. We're all feeling good. And really, I couldn't be feeling any better because I have three of just some of the best in the business with me today. I've got Luca Giliberti, I've got Tony Ruiz, and I've got Zach Laws. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.
What a dream. Now, look, let's talk about some stuff that's going to happen today. There's so much to cover, and I just thought we would go through some of the big categories. And then if we have time, we can talk about some of the talking points today. Zach, I want to go to you first because there's something that's been really bothering me. I didn't sleep well last night. Maybe that's because I need to get out more, but I can't stop thinking about best film drama. I don't really know what to think. I've got Nomadland in number one. I'm feeling nervous. How about you?
I actually have Nomadland in one as well right now. And the only reason I have it is because I'm predicting Chloe Zhao to win director and nothing else. And that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I thought to myself, well, just, predict it to do the 1917 type thing, right? Win director, win picture. But I mean, I think you have a right to be nervous because it could just as easily be Trial of the Chicago 7, which overperformed in terms of nominations. It could just as easily be Mank, which led the nominations. And we know that they like David Fincher because he won picture and director for The Social Network 10 years ago. It could just as easily be Promising Young Woman or The Father, both of which I think could possibly win acting awards tonight for their lead performers, Carey Mulligan and Anthony Hopkins. So there's a lot of different possibilities that could happen here. But one thing that we know about the Golden Globes is that they like to predict the Oscar winner. And Nomadland has been the front runner for a very long time now. Very much the same way that The Social Network, as I mentioned before, or Boyhood, or various other films were the front runners. That didn't necessarily mean they ended up winning the Oscar, but we could see them try to go that route, or we could see them try to influence the race in a different way, like they did last year with 1917.
That's right. And what's really, everything you just said is pretty much what's been going through my brain, as well as I haven't really met or spoken to many people who really dislike that film. And I just gather that the Hollywood Foreign Press, we'll talk about who makes up that group a little later, wink, wink. But for now, if we just think about how they're all generally of a certain age, and I just think this is the kind of film that they would actually really embrace. But speaking of what they would embrace, there's another film in this category that's giving me a bit of ajda, and that's The Trial of Chicago 7. So I can't remember which one of you guys, Tony or Luca, was talking that up last week. I think it was you, Luca. You were thinking that it could actually win, and it's certainly a film that they would embrace. They do love Aaron Sorkin, and one of our comments has mentioned that. It's a really good point. What do you think, Luca? Do you think that's actually stronger than many of us think?
I did think it was stronger. So what's happened is that this season has gone on for way too long now. So I've gone completely mad, and I am now actually predicting The Father in a drama picture, which is a bold prediction, and it's probably wrong. But here's my thing. I had Trial of the Chicago 7 the entire time for all the obvious reasons. It's the full package. It's entertaining. It's Aaron Sorkin. It's got this big cast. It's extremely relevant. But I just have a feeling that it might be too obvious at this point. I see a lot of people changing to Trial of the Chicago 7 for the prediction, and I feel like they might go a different way. I had Promising Young Woman in number one at one point this week, but the reason why I ultimately went with The Father is because I've heard so many times how much the Hollywood Foreign Press Association loves this movie. It got 4 nominations. It did not get the director nomination. And Riley will probably be screaming in my ear that I shouldn't be predicting it because of the lack of a director nomination. But I just feel like they will want to give this movie something. And I had Anthony Hopkins at #1 for the longest time, but I went back to Chadwick. So it's just a no guts, no glory prediction. These are the most unpredictable Golden Globes we've had in such a long time, and I think this is going to be one of the categories that is just one of the most unpredictable categories. Any one of these 5 could win, honestly. So I just went with the craziest prediction. And fun fact, when Bohemian Rhapsody won in 2019, it was in 5th place in our odds, and that's where The Father is right now. Not that that matters, but sometimes crazy things happen. It's the HFPA.
Wow. You know what? I love The Father. Yeah, I just redid my predictions this morning, and I'm now thinking it's going to win nothing. And Luca, you know how much I love you, right? I think you're amazing. But are you high? Because I can't imagine The Father's going to win. Although if it does win later today, you should get a little clip of this and play it back to me until the end of time, and you probably will. And that's okay. But I took Anthony Hopkins out. I've taken The Father down a few pegs. I don't think Olivia Colman's going to keep her streak going, so I think it's going to walk away with nothing, which is a real shame. But because we do know that they love this film,
I disagree.
Okay, well, yeah. I'll like to see why, and then I'm going to go to Tony because I want to hear some bitchy comments from Tony. But firstly, Zach, why do you agree?
I mean, I'll just make this really quick. I'm predicting my no guts, no glory prediction is that Anthony Hopkins will win Best Actor for The Father. And that'll be its reward because, I mean, we should say that, Bohemian Rhapsody won Best Picture without a director or screenplay nomination. It just won actor and picture. It's only 2 nominations at the Globes. So it's not unheard of. But my logic is that Anthony Hopkins has never won a competitive Golden Globe. He's been nominated a bunch of times, but he did not win for The Silence of the Lambs. And so I'm kind of thinking that, if they love this movie as much as we're hearing, he could be a real surprise. And I wouldn't discount Luca's prediction of The Father winning, just because let's remember, this is a very tiny group of people voting. You only need about, 13-14% of the vote to win? Yeah. So, don't be surprised by anything.
Okay. Now, before I take that on, Tony, are you backing me up here? That's just insane.
I think... yes, Luca's nuts for going that far out on that. But he's right in the sense that this could be just as possible as anything else. I also think that Hopkins. I also have Hopkins winning Best Actor. I also would not count out Olivia Colman winning Supporting Actress. They love Olivia Colman. And, when Olivia Colman gets up on stage and accepts an award, there is fun to be had. She won for The Night Manager. She won for The Favorite. She won for The Crown. I'm not sure she's ever lost.
No, she hasn't.
No.
So if Hopkins doesn't win, I could see a scenario where Hopkins doesn't win and Colman does, because there really isn't a clear frontrunner in Supporting Actress. I think Supporting Actress is as wide open a category as Picture is. But back to Picture, I think Zach's logic is spot on. I think Shaw's going to win Director, and it can't win Director and nothing else. And I think it's also kind of peaking at the right time, having just come out on Hulu. A lot more people are discovering it, and I think it's kind of in the zeitgeist that is possible to push it to winning Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm headed, I think, anyway. There's something that we should probably talk about, the controversy that came out when the LA Times reported that the HFPA of 87 members, of course, from all over the world, people of color and people of all different nationalities, but curiously, no black members. And I think that's been the case for the last 20 years. That's certainly something that's going to be raised tonight from what I'm hearing. I think they're going to acknowledge it, which is good. We don't need to sweep that under the carpet. It's certainly very embarrassing and quite shameful, to be honest, but they'll acknowledge that, and I think they've also made some comments about trying to rectify that, although it shouldn't have taken an investigation to be and an expose for them to actually do that. But the reason why I know is because I just have a feeling that with the way discourse has been lately, particularly in the way of the BLM movement, that if for some reason Viola Davis and Chadwick Boseman both lose tonight, I just think the backlash will be quite strong, particularly through the lens of no black members. Do you all think that if they give the award to Anthony Hopkins and for some reason Viola Davis also loses, perhaps maybe to Kerry Mulligan, who seems to be the front runner there, don't you think that is too dangerous a proposition for the Golden Globes? Like, surely Chadwick will probably win, not only because of his performance being so wonderful, but also because, you know, he passed away so tragically, but also because they don't want that kind of backlash. They're already suffering from it as it is. Who would like to take that on?
Well, I'm just going to say that if the Golden Globes really cared about optics, I've got two words: Pia Zadora. So you know, let's not pretend that you know, optics ever really matter that much. So I mean, I don't know that. The thing is, with you've got these two narratives, and I think where we'll really see something happen is I think supporting actor is going to be a really, really interesting category to see what happens, because, you know, if you look at that category, we've got, you know, really two front runners here. I think it's between, I think most of us agree that it's between Sacha Baron Cohen for Chicago 7 and Daniel Kaluuya for Judas. I think that will be a really telling award, because we know that the Globes are not above giving somebody two in the same night. It happens quite often. And so if they go with, say, a Sacha Baron Cohen, you know, will they do that? Maybe. I'm still predicting Daniel Kaluuya, simply because I think this is the start of I mean, it's pretty much overwhelmingly one of the best performances of the year. And I think I think this is going to start that train. But I don't know that the Globe voters really care that much about optics.
I mean, I'm with Tony. I mean, look, the optics is going to look bad either way, right?
Yeah.
If they have if they have little to no black winners, it's going to look bad. If they have black winners across the board, we know it's not that difficult for the 90 members of the Golden Globes to get together on a Zoom meeting and say, okay, let's try to make our winners not reflect the lack of diversity that we have in our voting group, right? So, I mean, the optics are going to be questioned either way, right? There's just no way around that. The answer is they need to expand their membership for the first time in a long time and become more inclusive, and also maybe a bit more transparent about how they select voting members. I actually, I think that I have Daniel Kaluuya winning for one of the reasons that Tony laid out, is that I think Cohen could win an actor for Borat. And, they're not above giving somebody two prizes, but in this case, they might not feel necessarily inclined to. Because I think it will look bad if there are no people of color who win awards tonight, either on the film or the television side, and they don't have that many opportunities to do it.
Also, Zach, can I just jump in here?
Yeah.
I mean, it's also a surprisingly, we're talking about the possibility of winners, but for the most part, it really is a very diverse group of nominees. In terms of it across the board. So for a lot of them, maybe they think, oh, look how diverse, we did the diverse thing already. Look at our nominees. And maybe they won't, so they might think they've checked that box with the nominees. We're being so cynical here.
I know.
It's true though. I can't imagine the Hollywood Foreign Press Association caring. Obviously, this controversy is much worse than some of the past controversies they faced, and we've all known that the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has a race issue. I mean, that's been obvious for so many years now. What I've realized though is that non-white people only win when they're the overwhelming frontrunner, or at least in many cases, and that's my fear tonight. There's so many categories that are so wide open where we really don't have a front runner, which is why, honestly, I have Chadwick Boseman being the only non-white acting winner because I know many people are predicting Anthony Hopkins, and that makes a lot of sense. I had him for the longest time, but I just don't see them rewarding a bunch of non-white people now. Not that they have a lot to choose from anyway from their nominees. Just because of these controversies. That's just not who they are. And as Zach said, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what the outcome is. There will be controversy anywhere. There will be backlash, which is why I think the SAG Awards, for example, will look completely different. I think the Golden Globes will be less relevant than they have been in years, just because I can't see the other awards bodies necessarily following suit if they reward only white people at this ceremony.
Also, look at where the HFPA put Minari. So
yeah, exactly. And that's another. Yeah.
No other nominations. No other nominations for that.
Yeah, agreed. And that's another category where it doesn't matter what happens, there will be backlash because it's not. Yeah. Even if it wins, it's in the wrong category. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what happens tonight, in my opinion, unless. If they reward black, non-white people across the board, people will say they only did it because of the controversy, which is, possible. But it's going to be a mess. And either way, what they really need to do is.
So in other words, it's going to be a mess. AKA, it's going to be the Golden Globes.
Exactly. Exactly.
If I could come to their defense for a second. I mean, which is unusual because I love criticizing the Golden Globes, but let's just try to be a bit more circumspect about this. So we should be watching awards voters vote for what they love and vote on merit. And although diversity is extremely important, both ethnic, racial diversity, sexual diversity, socioeconomic, whatever, right? It doesn't matter, but it's all very important. But I am totally down for them awarding what they loved because that's or what they think was the best. And that's fine. So if there are no non-white voters, then so be it. That would be a shame because surely there are some contenders here who absolutely deserve to be awarded, and vice versa. If there are a lot of, black and people of color winning tonight, wonderful. But so I just want to get out of the way because I just don't think we focus too much on this as an issue.
I think what I'll just say, just playing devil's advocate here, I think that the bad optics of it comes from the fact that they have no black voters, and that the most high-profile snubs were for Delroy Lindo, the Five Bloods, Stephen Yeun, and all the Minari actors. I think that you're right. I mean, it should be about quality of work above all else, and if Viola Davis loses to Carey Mulligan tonight, it's because it should be because Carey Mulligan gave the best performance. I mean, it's hard to judge what's best anyway, especially when it's like, you have two such great performances in a category of 5 great performances, right? But it's the fact that there's seemingly no diversity in their ranks.
That's right.
That makes it look bad. And I mean, one thing that we should. It is a diverse crop of nominees, a more diverse crop of nominees, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that so many films have been moved out of this season, right? Yeah. So it makes you kind of wonder, would they have done the same thing if this was a normal year, right? Maybe. We don't know. We have no way of knowing that. So I just think it's a bad look either way.
Absolutely. The problem here is subjectivity is a really wonderful thing, and I always rail about that. I'm always going on about subjectivity. However, when the group awarding, when their subjectivity is being displayed, but their lens is all through the same racial group or whatever you want to call it, that's the problem. If you diversify your ranks like you've seen at the Oscars, you're going to see a more diverse range of nominees. I think that's the issue. So putting that aside, I want to talk about Minari because I think that's a really interesting case. When I made a comment about it on social media the day of the nominations, I was completely and utterly destroyed. I ended up kind of retracting what I said because I perhaps maybe didn't didn't say it as sophisticatedly as I should have. But the Globes have rules. So they have movies that are eligible either for Best Film Drama, Best Film Musical or Comedy, Best Animated Feature, and Best Foreign Language Film. And if you're eligible for one of those, you're not eligible for the other four. That's the rule. It's a crappy rule. It's not very, it needs to change. But putting Minari in foreign language film, I don't necessarily think was supposed to be a racist thing or something where they were trying to shunt it because it's about Korean people in America. That's where I was coming from. So that being said, they didn't nominate it anywhere else. That's problematic because it's such a beloved movie. And I'm just wondering, you guys, putting aside the fact that Minari should have been maybe nominated in a different category because it's an American film, even though we've seen other American films in the foreign language film category before, are you thinking that it will win because of the controversy? What do you think, Zach?
Well, I mean, first I will just sort of say that the problem with their putting it there is that it's an inconsistent ruling that they make, because we've seen movies like Babel, which won Best Film Drama. Like 15% of that is probably in English, right? Because it's in a variety of different languages. And I think they maybe shot a handful of scenes in the United States, right? Inglourious Basterds, the same thing. It was shot in Europe. 70% of that movie is in either German or French or Italian. Very little of it is in English. So there's no consistency with their rulings. And I think that's part of the problem with it. And I also think that in this year, it did not look very good because, we've been through a presidency where Asian Americans were being otherized in a racist excuse for a mishandling of a global pandemic. And so I think it looked doubly discriminatory, right? Yeah. Like, what more do we have to do to prove that we're Americans, right? We made a movie in America with American filmmakers and American actors. The fact that it's not in the English language, I got news for you. Living in Los Angeles, not everybody speaks English in America. People speak Spanish, people speak Mandarin, people speak Korean, Arabic, Italian, German. People speak all different kinds of languages because this country is made up of people from all around the globe. That is what makes this country great. And to say that just because your film is a majority non-white people not speaking English, that somehow makes you a foreign film. I think that is where the outrage comes from. In placing it in that category.
I think one of the things that it's a simple fix. It's a simple fix. If the Globes would just say, hey, a film can compete in foreign language film and can be Best Picture. I mean, it's such an easy fix, but they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by not doing that.
Yeah, or they perhaps maybe say an American films, like at the Oscars, American films shouldn't compete in that category, and maybe they change it from foreign language. It's about the language. That's where they're headed. So, like, Letters from Iwo Jima was an American film. It was nominated in foreign language because it wasn't in English. But the Babel and Inglourious Basterds examples really hurt them and make them look foolish. And all I'm saying is, I think the ruling was more stupidity and short-sightedness and myopia as opposed to being like white supremacist or racist. That's where I think they're headed. I don't know what they're thinking because most of the time they're not thinking very clearly or smartly. But I just find it really interesting. It's a really good thing that we're talking about it, though. It just makes us be a bit more aware of there were a lot of Korean Americans who were really offended by this ruling, and they should be heard. And I think it's a really good thing that we get to talk about it. So apart from that, what do you think will win? Because I don't actually think Minari is going to win that prize. I think it's going to be The Life Ahead because we know they love that film, although it didn't actually get Sophia Loren nominated. Luca, what do you think? Do you think it's going to win?
I do still have Minari winning because I just think the backlash was too big, and I think, as I said before, they'll probably think they're doing the right thing by rewarding it. in light of the backlash, but I think they are not aware of the avalanche that awaits them afterwards. And that's just I'm not even regarding the quality. It's an incredible movie. I'm just thinking from the perspective of the HFPA. That said, I do think this category is much more fluid than that. The Life Ahead, as you said, it has an additional nomination, though it didn't get Sophia Loren in, which is a bit strange considering it is the HFPA and it is Sophia Loren, but I'm not going to hold it against it in this category. And you know what? I would still look out for another round because because it is the Oscar frontrunner at the moment. And if they do want to be the first ones to recognize it, they might just do it. It's such a strange race because Minari is in it. It doesn't belong here. It just doesn't. But I'm predicting it, but I wouldn't be surprised if The Life Ahead or another round took this.
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I'm being safe and just sticking with Minari, even though I really wish it wasn't here because it belongs in Best Picture. But I think another round is the one that I would look for, even ahead of The Life Ahead. I think that movie could sneak in. I think that could be the beginning of a real ascension for that movie.
Right. What about you, Zach? Do you think Minari's got this?
I mean, I think I'm predicting it just because I feel like, the backlash to it being in the category might be what makes it win, strangely enough. But, another round is the Oscar frontrunner, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that win. They also, they will do some weird things in this category. Like, they don't always go for Minari's not the Oscar frontrunner in foreign language film. So, they might do another round in order to do that, or they might just say, screw it and go with The Life Ahead.
That's right. Yeah. So, I'm actually hoping that it will be lower enough because I love that Guatemalan film and I've been reading about it for weeks. So it could be that too. And The Duelists is a French film, which is also very highly regarded. Guys, we have about 3 minutes before I have to bring in the next group. So before we go, I'd love to hear from each of you just briefly what you are most excited about. Like, what is just giving you butterflies or making you feel really happy? What do you want to see the most? Who would like to go first?
I think. Well, I'm always fascinated. First of all, whenever Tina and Amy are together, I'm a happy person. But I think what really is going to be most fascinating is what this ceremony ends up looking like. I mean, we're in the United States, we're on somewhat of a downhill trajectory in terms of the pandemic. It'd be interesting to see. We've had several other award shows leading up to this, so we've seen what works, what doesn't work, and I think it'll be really interesting to see what the energy is like in the ceremony and how Tina and Amy are able to navigate that. So I'm just really interested to see in how they pull the show off.
Yeah, I am too. What about you, Zach?
Well, I mean, I'm interested to see how they pull it off too, Tony, because they're not going to be in the same coast.
Yeah,
they're going to be.
Right.
Yeah, Tina's in New York and Amy's out here in Los Angeles. So I say as if I know them. Yeah, I mean, it will be interesting to see how they pull it off. And it will be interesting to see how much of their monologue is about the recent controversies, because you feel like they would have to address it in some fashion. I'm just sort of I'm always excited to see who's going to win. Like, that's pretty much the long and short of it. I always know that I'm going to do really badly in my Globe predictions. And I always think of the Golden Globes as like the, starter kit, let's say, for fine tuning my Oscar predictions so that they can be as accurate as possible. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
It's like the out of town tryout before opening night.
Exactly. Yeah. This is.
Okay, Luca, you've got 30 seconds. Tell us what you're most excited about.
I would say the speeches. I really hope there are some excellent speeches. We have excellent speeches every year. If Chadwick Boseman wins, the speech his wife will give will probably be very emotionally draining, or whoever is speaking on his behalf. I think if a Sacha Baron Cohen, if he wins, he'll give an excellent speech, and he'll probably include the controversy in some shape or form. So I'm looking forward to that. And I just hope for some surprises. I hope they do something different and not in a bad way. But I do have lower expectations in that regard. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it altogether.
I think that's right. Now I want to bring in Charles Bright, Sam Eckmann, and Paul Sheehan. So while we're waiting for them to come in, here we go. It's been great having you guys on, Luca, Zach, and Tony. I look forward to hearing more from you guys throughout the show. We've got a great live blog going. So enjoy. Thank you for your comments, and we'll see you later.
See you later. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Now, I'm not sure whether Paul is joining us, but while we wait, I think we just kick on, guys. So welcome to part 2 of our live show. I've got Charles Bright, I've got Sam Eckmann, and I have a blank screen. No, it's Riley. Okay. So, guys, we've just talked about a lot of stuff. I don't necessarily want to retread what we've just talked about the whole time, but I wouldn't mind your comments on some of the more interesting things we talked about. Not sure if you're following, but we did talk a bit about the Minari controversy. We talked about the fact that there are no black members in the 87-member HFPA, which is pretty astounding. And we also talked about Best Picture, Best Film Drama, which is a bit of a head-scratcher. Just on those issues, I wouldn't mind hearing from you guys. Sam, what are your thoughts on the stuff that we've already talked about?
Well, I'm so interested to see how, because I feel like Tina and Amy have to address the controversy, which has been in like every entertainment publication the last few days. So I'm interested to see how they address that in their perhaps opening speech, because they always do a great job with that and are really good at bouncing off one another. And I feel like we'll not really be afraid to take the HFPA to task on that. I think obviously they need to diversify their membership. It's kind of embarrassing to not have a single black person in your membership, because if you're trying to be a global group, you want kind of a global point of view and a diverse point of view of the people who are selecting your winners.
It's even more confounding because they have a whole continent to choose from. And
Right.
do none of them have people? Do none of those countries have people writing about the entertainment industry in Los Angeles?
That's right. Like,
That's
what about the Caribbean, South America, Africa? I'm a bit confused as to where all their membership comes from. I'd like to see more transparency. I would like to look. I'm not like so.
They don't have to. They're a nonprofit. They literally don't have to by law.
Well, of course not. But I mean, I think for optics, you would be saying, okay, look, we're trying to, we're going to bring in another 20 people from other continents or other countries, maybe some poorer countries or countries that don't necessarily have a huge entertainment industry, because they all consume, particularly American entertainment, just like the rest of us do. And I think,
you even look like what some of the countries that are very prominent in international cinema right now. The one that comes to mind automatically to me is Romania. And that's one where I hope that there's someone from Romania on there, because they're a very interesting place in terms of what's going on with cinema in there, as well as how they might cover American cinema as well.
Although that being said, I'm not sure how prominent the Black Romanian community is, but that's another story. That was a joke. Sorry. Now back to Sam. So Sam, before we move on to some other categories, because I'm really interested in hearing more about the other categories that don't get a lot of time. Very briefly, what are your thoughts on Best Film Drama? Because I still think that is quite a head scratcher.
I just have I've switched over to Trial Chicago 7 winning. It seems like a very Golden Globes type movie that celebrates big movie production, and there weren't a lot of films that felt that way this year because so many movies pushed their release dates back in the pandemic. So Trial of Chicago 7, it's an enormous cast of people. They love having as many people as possible in Hollywood being celebrated that night. And I think they'll be fine just giving Nomadland director and won't feel the need to give it drama. They'll be going with Trial of Chicago 7, which I think also will pick up the screenplay. And, at the Globes, there's not as as many categories, so that's you don't need that many wins under your belt to pick up one of the top fields. So I'm going with Trial Chicago 7.
What about you, Charlie? Are you on the same page?
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I keep on flipping back and forth, but I do agree that it's also, I think this Best Picture race feels very fluid right now, and I don't think I don't even think if the mindset of the Hollywood Foreign Press was to try to predict the Oscars, I don't even think they would know where to go. So I think that really helps that, and I think that really helps that, and I think that so I am going with Trial of the Chicago 7. But even like Luca's prediction of The Father, that I find that feasible.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't think he's a?
And by the way, I do just want to shout out one of the commenters. Indy Perez says, "If Emily in Paris wins, we riot." I'm right there with you, sister. I'm right there.
Well, you know what? Let's actually talk about that next, because we haven't given TV any time yet. There's something that comes up almost perennially with the Golden Globes, and that is their shall we say, predilection for being bought, and how they loved going on super crazy junkets. And then it came out the other day that 20, I think, of the 87 were shouted to a wonderful, luxury Paris
5-star hotel stay in Paris. Yeah,
no one's ever flown us to the peninsula. What gives?
Yeah, I'm just wondering where.
I had to do that with my mom on a cruise. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm feeling a little left out. But apart from that, I'm just thinking, well, okay, that kind of explains what Emily in Paris is even doing in the best comedy lineup. Nothing against the show. If you love that show, good on you. Wonderful. I'm very happy for you. But there were so many shows that were missed out. You know, we're living in a golden age of TV. We say that all the time, but it's actually quite true. To have that show with 2 high-profile nominations, and then hear that they did the Sharon Stone perfume bag situation, which we heard about many, many years ago, and they're still doing it, I find really, really gross. And I'm always the first one to try to defend the Globes, because I do really enjoy the show, and I love that they go out on a limb on various shows that don't necessarily get a lot of attention. I love that about the Globes. But I just found...
Well, I think it's also because just people, I think the thing that a lot of people, besides, like us who really follow it, don't understand is that is how weird it is that this organization has such an outsized influence on the biggest thing for the entertainment industry, which is the biggest event for the entertainment industry every year, which is the Oscars. The Academy has around a little less than 10,000 members. This is 87 people who aren't even from here, who aren't even critics. And it's just so weird that they get this out, that this responsibility, they have this outsized influence. And I think the more people actually really comprehend that, they'll go, wait, that is weird.
It's weird, and that's why there's no diversity, right? Because it's this small insular group that is very tight-knit, and they don't want a bunch of other people in there because they know that they get showered with all of this access to stars, all of these freebies, trips to Paris, and they can do that because they're an easy target. They're a small group, so you only need to get a few of them to vote for you, and then you have this platform to be on their award show and potentially win an award, get more people to watch your show or movie, maybe get in with the Oscars or Emmys because people pay attention to it. So they like, I think, making themselves an easy target.
Absolutely, we're talking about it.
Remember, it's also a town where all publicity is good publicity.
Absolutely. So the thing is, though, the same thing happened with music. Sia's film, and you guys know me. You know that I love Sia, and I think I'm really proud of her as an Australian artist. But the movie was trashed, and it's very controversial in the way that it's
12% on Rotten Tomatoes. 12%.
So the question there is, they do make weird choices sometimes. They like what they like, and it's a really strange little group of people who are not all. Some of them are journalists. I know a couple of them, the Aussie ones. They're journalists and they're quite respected in the industry. Some of them are not, though, but they have a disproportionate influence in the industry because they've just got the history behind them, and they throw a really good party there at the beginning of the year, and they set the scene. They always will. So we're stuck with the HFPA whether we like it or not. So that being said, I'm rambling a little, but I just wanted to get that out. So Charlie, that being said, in comedy or musical, I think it's really between Ted Lasso and The Flight Attendant. I don't think Schitt's Creek is going to sweep here. What do you think?
I do not think Schitt's Creek is going to sweep this evening, but I do have it winning this. You know, if they didn't have to nominate Annie Murphy, you know, but the fact that they nominated all 4 cast members, to me says that they really have enjoyed the show. And so I do think it's going to win series, and I do think it's going to win for Catherine O'Hara. I do have Jason Sudeikis winning actor, and honestly, I would not be surprised if Ted Lasso were to win comedy series. But I do think Schitt's Creek will win the comedy series trophy.
What about you, Sam? I know you're a huge Schitt's Creek fan as well. Do you think what do you think it will win?
I also have it winning comedy series. I told you the other day it was hate speech to say they wouldn't get any awards. I don't know why you're continuing this trend, Rob.
Dear God, Rob, such an SP.
But they're not going to sweep the same way that they did at the Emmys, because it's not the same type of deal. But the Globes don't want to look stupid. They want to look on trend. They want to look cool. And so Schitt's Creek isn't going to go home empty-handed. I do think Jason Sudeikis will win lead actor for Ted Lasso. I just think they're coming really hard for these awards that show. And I am still predicting Catherine O'Hara, just because I feel like I have to. But I know that Kaley Cuoco stands a really good shot at beating her. But I could be wrong about that. And maybe it's just actually paired with Dan Levy as their one acting win, because I do think he stands a great shot at being kind of the face that represents the series, because he has so many hats that he wears for it. So they can pair up a comedy series win and supporting actor with him as their way of giving them a nice send-off.
That's a good point. You know, I just think the comedy categories on the TV side are so interesting and strong this year. I'm really impressed with. I mean, I guess maybe Emily in Paris wasn't one of my best or one of my choices, but I'm happy with what they picked otherwise. And you're right. You know, I think you're both right. Maybe Schitt's Creek won't walk away empty-handed. I currently think that it will be, but I'm still on that hate speech thing that Sam is sending me hate mail. And God, I didn't appreciate the Cancel one of us. No, anyway, and so I'm really impressed. I think The Flight Attendant is actually on the ascendancy. We've written about it at Gold Derby a few times in the last couple of weeks. I think Kaley Cuoco could be a really interesting win this year. I think she will beat Catherine O'Hara, and so. But I'm really excited to see what will happen in comedy. And personally, I just think Ted Lasso is one of the best things on TV in the last 12 months, and gave me so much joy, and I hope that it does win at least one, if not two, tonight. So, that being said, let's move across to a completely different category, because we've already talked about it a little bit, but I want to hear about what you guys think about Best Supporting Actor in a Film, because that's a really interesting category as well. The argument could be, you know, Sacha Baron Cohen, he could win that, or comedy actor. You've got Daniel Kaluuya, who appears to be on the ascendancy now that more people are checking out Judas and the Black Messiah. Bill Murray's a favorite. Leslie Odom Jr. is like the representative of One Night in Miami, although he could win in song. And then, of course, you've got Jared Leto, who came out of nowhere, really, in a film that people didn't love, but he now has a Globe and SAG nomination to his name. I think he's actually in second. I think Jared Leto is a real dark horse, just like people never thought that Aaron Taylor-Johnson would win a few years ago for Nocturnal Animals. It's certainly possible that that kind of thing could happen again. I'm going with Daniel Kaluuya. I did have Leslie Odom Jr. for a little while. What do you guys think? It's a really tough category, and it's a really strong one too. What about you first, Charlie?
I have Sacha Baron Cohen winning this one. I am worried about Daniel Kaluuya, but I do have him winning this. I think I've justified this, at least in my own internal deliberations, because I don't have Sacha winning comedy musical actor. I have Lin-Manuel Miranda winning that one. So I think that would justify it. And you know, I think that Trial is winning picture and screenplay and picking up a supporting act, an acting prize. It's their only shot to do it. It makes a lot of sense. Very much the same way it did for Green Book a couple of years ago.
Okay, what about you, Sam?
I know I feel like I should be picking Sacha Baron Cohen, but I'm not. I'm just going with a nuclear option and and going for Adam Jr. I can.
Oh, thank God! Oh, thank God! I thought you were going to say. Thought you were going to say Jared Leto.
No, but I can see Jared Leto winning, and I will point out that the little things. You said people didn't like it, but it wound up also on the Oscar shortlist for a few of the shortlists that were released. And I think it's, again, because it feels like one of those big movies, like a big Hollywood picture, where a lot of those films were pushed back out of this year. And so there is appetite for that type of kind of grand movie. And The Little Things does that. So I can see Jared Leto pulling through there because he's from a movie that checks off a box that very few other contenders do. But I'm going with Leslie Odom Jr. just because his role just seems the biggest to me and showiest. He gets to chew the scenery. He plays a real life person. And it's a movie that really is centered on the actors. It was adapted for a play, so it's just centered on the actors and their performances. And he's the one nominated. And I think he could surprise.
He's just, and let's be honest, he's also really wonderful. I'm not afraid to say, I don't really care what people think. I thought Jared Leto was awesome. And I really enjoyed The Little Things. It has its problems, but I was so entertained by that. And I'm happy that he's nominated. So, Charlie, that was just for you. Now, I want to talk about the other supporting category on the film side, because that's also giving me lots of heartburn for this reason. So in supporting actress, you've got Glenn Close, Jodie Foster, Olivia Colman, Amanda Seyfried, and Elena Zengel. Really strong category there. You don't have Maria Bakalova because she was moved over to comedy actress, so that kind of makes this race quite interesting. I'm concerned that Glenn Close will win, not because I thought she was awesome, and I didn't mind Hillbilly Elegy. Again, I don't care about the Twitter bubble, I just care about what I like, and I thought that was okay, and I thought she was really, really good. She could win that, and then she could be on her way. The conversation will start about her finally maybe winning an Oscar, and then God help us if that doesn't happen. It'd just be more heartache for all of the Glenn Close stands. So that's what's actually giving me a lot of heartache. I think Jodie Foster's going to surprise here. I really don't know why. It's just a gut thing that I have. They love her. This is a really good role for her. It's like a comeback where she's really kind of apart from Tahar Rahim, she's the central character, the lawyer in that movie. And I thought she was brilliant. I think she's going to be the big surprise of the night. Sam, what about you? What do you think of this category? It's not an easy one.
No, it's not. I think it's pretty open. Is Glenn Close still leading our odds? I just don't see her doing it. I know a lot of people are predicting her, but the Globes don't have the same problem with Glenn as the Oscars do, because the Globes have handed her win. So she doesn't have this overdue narrative hanging around her like she does with the Academy Awards. So I have Olivia Colman winning because it feels like that's the one place where they can represent the father with a win, and Sony Pictures Classics, and that is a film that they obviously loved quite a bit. So I think she can pull it out. I would love to see Jodie Foster take it, though, because I loved The Martinian. I think the campaign has sort of flown under the radar a little bit, which is a shame because it's a really, really excellent film. So I was glad to see them get the 2 acting nominations here.
All right, you, Charlie?
Jodie Foster wouldn't surprise me. I am just going to Glenn Close by default. Although the Globes were the race 2 years ago that really resurrected her hopes, her Oscar hopes for The Wife. And even though it didn't pan out all the way, I mean, man, she went on. If it hadn't been for that win of the Globes, I don't think she would have had that. So this would be a good starting off point for that. So yeah, that's just what I think there. But I would be even Jodie Foster or Olivia Colman wouldn't surprise me here.
Okay. Now, before we go, I think we should spend some time on the limited series categories because they're always quite interesting. Over the last few years, to be honest, a lot of the best on TV and streaming has been in the limited series and to a lesser extent TV movie categories and genre. So in limited series, you've got Normal People, The Queen's Gambit, Small Axe, The Undoing, and Unorthodox. If we went with the rule that the Globes love to be the first to honour the shiny new toy, then you're really looking at The Queen's Gambit, Small Axe, and The Undoing. But The Queen's Gambit was the biggest thing on Netflix. It was a sensation. People loved it, which is why most think Anya Taylor-Joy will win her category over heavyweights like Kate Blanchett, Nicole Kidman, and Shira Haas, and also, of course, Stacey Edgar Jones. And then on the male side, you've got Emmy winner Mark Ruffalo, Ethan Hawke in an amazing performance, Hugh Grant playing against type, brilliant in The Undoing, Jeff Daniels in The Comey Rule, and Bryan Cranston. So these are really interesting categories. At the moment, and I think this is where I am. I've got Queen's Gambit, Anya Taylor-Joy, and I'm going with Hugh Grant. I've been changing that for the last few weeks. I'm going with Hugh Grant. So, Charlie, what do you think about these categories? Because these ones are also not very easy to kind of to land on.
Yeah, I think that Anya Taylor-Joy is should be a lock for actress, but the limited series one, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel like that we could be seeing something interesting there, because Queen's Gambit I have at number 3 right now in limited series. My number 1 is Small Axe. I think Small Axe will win this one. But I also feel like if it were Small Axe, I think Unorthodox could stand a really good chance in this category. It just feels like something that that would be right up their alley, and I feel like that's one that could honestly happen. And then in the actor category, I have who do I have? I can't even remember anymore. I also have Hugh Grant.
Okay, and what about you, Sam?
I agree with you on the Hugh Grant. I think that will be the place. The Undoing is also really, really popular. And so it feels like it needs to get something. And that's where I have it being recognized, is with Hugh Grant. But the Queen's Gambit is just fits the Globes like a glove. It was like the biggest show on Netflix this year. Everyone watched it. Everyone devoured it. And they love getting behind that hit zeitgeist thing. So that seems to me like typical shiny new object Globes gravitating towards that, and Anya Taylor-Joy, who's nominated twice. So I think she's very likely to pick up that award. Small Axe feels more like a critics thing that they, to me anyway, a critics thing that the Globe voters maybe didn't care about as much, but put on to feel cool, like they were including, a hot new thing.
They nominated John Boyega too. So I mean, there was it went just beyond the series, and I think that speaking of controversies, here's one that's I think that a win here would be like fully anointing it as a serious player for the Emmy race further down the line.
Yeah, right.
And he would be probably unless Rami Youssef pulls off a second consecutive win, probably the only person of color to win on the TV side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, if Small Axe were to win this and nothing else, it'd be just like the last Steve McQueen thing at the Globes when 12 Years a Slave won Best Picture and nothing else.
Yeah. There's another whole set of categories that we should talk about while I've got you guys here, and that's because you're both East Coasters, and Sam in particular is.
I think you mean the correct coast, but I'll let it slide.
I am also an East Coaster, just a completely different hemisphere. But Sam is our resident, one of our resident Tony Awards experts amongst us contributors. So we should talk about Hamilton for a bit. That is in the running for Best Comedy or Musical Film, as well as for Lin-Manuel Miranda in the actor race. Really curious that it showed up here, and yet it shows up on the TV side for other awards like the SAGs, where Daveed Diggs was nominated. I find that really interesting. I don't really know what the best answer for that is, and it doesn't really matter. I'm happy that it's at least nominated. However, I do think, and I think this was raised by Marcus, our colleague Marcus, in one of their Slugfests a few days ago, where the argument could be made, one day they're going to remake Hamilton as a motion picture, a proper motion picture, and maybe that's probably more appropriate for it to be honoured then as opposed to now. The counter argument is, well, they made this spectacle so watchable for the screen, the way it was edited and shot.
For the small screen, though, because it wasn't being released at theaters.
That's right. So I don't quite understand what it's doing here, but I'm happy anyway because that's one of the things that I've just watched on loop for months. Even yesterday, like, I was listening to it in the car. Like it's really amazing that we've got such beautiful art that we get to honor. So Sam, that brings me to this. Do you think it's going to win Best Comedy or Musical? Because I actually think it will. What do you think?
I do. I do. I think a lot of people have Borat subsequent movie film winning that category, but I feel like Borat is more about like the personalities, like with the two actors in that film, and so they can honor it by giving Sacha Baron Cohen or Maria Bakalova an award, whereas Hamilton feels like more of an event. And again, we've just talked about how the Globes love hopping on board these trendy zeitgeist things, and I mean, Hamilton is like the pinnacle of that. So I think they'll definitely want to recognize that and give it a moment on their telecast. I don't see Lin-Manuel winning, I don't think. Because of what you said, it's interesting to me, like at the SAGs, where it's competing as TV, only one actor got in, Daveed Diggs, but there's such a strong cast in this thing, giving amazing performances. Like every really major cast member gets a big time to shine, gets a number that showcases their abilities. So you would think if they really love it, then it's going to show up places. But I don't think people, there's a hesitancy to recognize performances that were built for the stage but are being showcased on camera. So I don't see Lin-Manuel winning this one, but I do think it can very easily take the top category. And I love musicals.
Did you say that you think Maria Bakalova was going to win the Comedy Actress Award?
I think she's the front runner. I have her predicted, but I'm hesitant because I don't know. I feel like that's a place where they could throw a surprise like Rosamund Pike in and win. Yeah, but I do think she's out front.
You're all crazy.
Okay, you know what, Charlie? I'll let you speak, and then I'll chime in with my thoughts. Go ahead.
Well, I said I don't think it's going to win picture. I actually have the reverse of what Sam has. I have Borat subsequent movie film winning picture and Lin-Manuel Miranda as their way of recognizing the film or the film performance, whatever you want to call it, in that category, because it is, it's his baby, and even though they're awarding the performance, I think that would also be their way of rewarding the project as a whole.
Yeah, okay. I think I've been having Borat as my number one choice in the film race for weeks. I changed it this morning because, look, I think Borat's a great film, and narratively, it's not just about these setups with these two characters. For me, I think it was about the narrative they tried to string along, and I think it worked really well. Jason Wallner, the director of that film, did a really great job of kind of piecing it all together. I thought it was so funny. So I think it has a chance, but I think they won't pass up the opportunity to award Hamilton. I think it will, in all the nightly news broadcasts about the Globes afterwards, when they have those little sound bites, I think they'll probably show Hamilton winning because it's something different. But on the acting side, I think Baron Cohen will win again. He won for Borat in 2006. And I think Bakalova will win. You all know how much of a groupie I am for her performance. I think she's wonderful, and I think she's on her way to the Oscar nomination at least. But
I'm with you, Rob.
You've been saying it from the get-go, Charlie. But I'm a little bit wary of Rosamund Pike, as Sam, you just said, for very good reason. I watched I Care a Lot last night. We were up until midnight just because we couldn't turn it off, and it blew me away. I just thought it was so entertaining and so unpredictable, and a lot of it had to do with her performance, as well as Peter Dinklage and Diane Weiss. It's just such a great movie. I hope it gets more attention this award season. I'm very, very happy that the Golden Globes decided to nominate her. This is where we have to give them some kudos. They're a real hot mess, but every once in a while they come up with some good stuff. So you've each got 20 seconds before I bring in my next group. I don't know what happened to Paul. Hopefully he's okay and he hasn't kind of fallen over and hurt his hip or something. Hopefully he's around, but he didn't join us today, so that's okay. Charlie and Sam, what's the thing you're most excited about? You just cannot contain yourself. Go first, Charlie.
I can't wait to see what Maria Bakalova is going to say. I can't wait to see what she's going to say. She's been, she's been owning this award season. I think she's been fantastic, and I can't wait to see. I just can't wait to see almost everything, and I just can't wait to see the presentation of everything. That's what I'm excited for.
And you're at you, Sam.
I hope that all the celebrities are drinking in their homes, because that's something that the Golden Globes always has in person, is the camaraderie of everyone getting a little toasty together. And I can't wait to see Emily in Paris just win both of their at the 78th annual Emily in Paris Golden Globe Awards.
Yeah.
We need all the people participating tonight to be on whatever substances that Rose Byrne and Bobby Cannavale were on during the Creative Arts Emmys back in September, because they were delightful.
Yeah, and maybe we might see music win Best Comedy or Musical Film, and then there'll be a lot of really interesting stories after that. Now,
and then Armageddon will ensue.
It will. I'm bringing in our next group before you guys go. So David Buchanan, Marcus James Dixon, and Kevin Jacobsen, if you could please join us. And I'm going to say goodbye to Sam and Charles. I'm really sorry to see you go, but get the hell out of here. Now, you were great. You were really good.
We know we were great. Thank you.
You know we were great. And we'll see you soon. Enjoy the show. And yeah, now we've got our next group. Look, guys, I'm beside myself because I've got you guys now joining me. Dave Buchanan, the best hair in the biz. Kevin Jacobsen, best podcaster in the world, and Marcus James Dixon, just skinny and young. So we're all here together to talk about, one of the best award shows of the year because of how crazy they are. And I've always been asking everybody what they're most excited about. I'm going to ask you guys at the end, but I'll just say mine now. I just love all the crazy stuff. I want the crazy surprises. I want to see music win. I want to see Emily in Paris win. And I want all of that to happen, because then we just get to muck around and laugh and joke. Because you know what, guys? It's not the end of the world. It's not a pandemic. I want to have some fun. Don't you guys want to have a bit of fun? So anyway, that's my view.
I want to win the Prediction Center. So no, I don't want those things to happen.
Yeah, it's all right. I don't really feel like that. But look, let's talk about a few things we've already raised, because I'd love to hear your point of view. But then I want to move on to some other stuff, okay? Now, first of all, let's talk about the fact that time's up, HFPA. You got no black members in your 87 cohort. That's ridiculous. You're an international body. Where are your members from the Caribbean? Where are your members from Africa? What's going on? David, come on. What do you think?
Shocking. I mean, when you look at the nominees every year and occasionally the winners, you can sense that they have an issue. The report was explosive and quite damning, and I hope there's some real change. And I hope they do something tonight to address it. I hope the winners are diverse and representative of the really terrific diversity of the films and TV that we've had in the past year. It's in their court right now to fix this mess, and I hope that they start tonight.
Yeah, and before we move on to the other two guys, what are your thoughts about how this whole Emily in Paris trip, and how they get expensive gifts, and isn't it really gross? Do you just find that really, really gross?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, that kind of thing crosses a line. It made it very easy to predict that neither of them were going to win anymore. I mean, as soon as that cat got out of the bag, any chance that you thought they might upset, because they love to do that. They pair a series winner and an actor or actress. So, in some universe, you could say, well, maybe Emily in Paris takes it. It is foreign and about, Americans abroad. But that sunk to fifth in my predictions as soon as that article came out. Both of those, you can just write them off.
Good point. Kevin, what do you think of the double controversies this year?
Yeah, they've really stepped in it now. I think this is one of those things that's been a bit of an open secret in general with the Golden Globes for decades now. I mean, Tony mentioned before Pia Zadora. That was a whole thing many, many decades ago. I think I'm just hoping that we get more than just lip service of we're going to try to do better. And it's sad that it had to come to this for there to be this big expose for the Golden Globes to actually finally do something about this decades-long problem. But I'm hoping that they actually start to try to make some active changes in general. but yeah, with the Emily in Paris thing, I mean, that's that's one of those things where when you look at that, it suddenly makes sense that it's not only getting in for Lily Collins, but for Best Comedy Series as well. But I mean, I think it's not just a problem with the Golden Globes. I think there are some critics groups that get plenty of, swag and bribery, things like that. So I do think it's, kind of on the industry too, and these studios to think a little more about what they're doing here, and for critics and people in the Hollywood foreign press to not be so easily swayed just because they are getting all these goodies. So, yeah.
Like maybe they just really love that show, Emily in Paris, and because you're right, Kevin, the stuff that I see that what some of these other groups and journalists get in their swag, we get some of that stuff, although we try to shun a lot of that stuff. Most of us are not members of various organizations. We try to be really, non-biased, non-conflicted about the entertainment industry. So I get what you're saying. It's not just the Globes, but the Globes do get a lot of the flack because sometimes their nominations seem to reflect the favoritism that is being shown. Marcus, what are your thoughts on the double controversy?
Did you see what Sterling K. Brown wrote on Instagram? I really loved it. He basically called them out. He says something like, winning a Globe was one of the highlights of my career, but it's not okay that you have 87 members and none of them are Black. And then he goes on to say, having a multitude of Black presenters, which he's presenting tonight, does not absolve you of your lack of diversity. So I'm very curious when he comes out to present if he's going to mention something. Or if this was his statement.
Yeah, right. I think he will. I think I've heard reports that this will be dealt with head on tonight. And also in addition to what they propose to say or demonstrate, if, for example, Viola Davis wins, I know that she is going to be very, very open about her thoughts. She has posted on Instagram as well. And, I'm really looking forward to that kind of discussion. I think we need to have more conversations about this, not just about the Globes, but diversity in general. This is a journey that we're all on, and good or bad, whether you agree with this as an issue or not, it's certainly something that we should be talking about. So maybe we'll just move on after that now. Let's talk more about the fun stuff, although the important stuff is also incredibly important. Let's talk about the category that I care about the most. And I saved this for Marcus because we're both basically obsessed with Gillian Anderson. And so we need to talk about supporting actress in a TV show. Okay, so we've got Helena Bonham Carter and Gillian Anderson from The Crown. We've got Julia Garner, double Emmy winner in the last 2 years for Ozark. Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek, who won last year as well on the comedy side, and Cynthia Nixon, who has a bunch of Globe nominations but has never won. So I think Gillian Anderson, this is the beginning of her winning basically everything that she's up for this year. I think she'll win at the SAGs. I think she'll win at the Critics' Choice. I think she'll eventually get nominated at the Emmys and she'll win for that. I just think it's undeniable. That's my point of view. I was so just astonished by her performance as British PM Margaret Thatcher, and I'm also just a really big fan of hers generally. So I'm really happy to see her back at the Globes. That's where I stand. Marcus, are you on the same page?
No, I think she's in 5th place. Just kidding. No, she's not only winning tonight. You're right. She's going to win every award for this role. And I looked up just before we went live. The last time she won a Globe for the X-Files was 24 years ago. Which I imagine some people in the comments, you probably weren't even alive back then. That's how long of a career she's had between, her two biggest, well-respected roles. And the thing is, even though she's up against a co-star, Helena Bonham Carter, I have Helena down in 5th place simply because she did not have a lot of material this year. It was kind of a surprise that she even got in. But because of the lack of screen time, really, that's why I don't think this is a vote split. We love to talk about vote splits at Gold Derby, so take your shot if you're playing a drinking game at home. But when it comes to the SAG Awards in a few weeks, that's going to be tougher for Gillian because she is a supporting actress nominated against leads. Like she's nominated against Emma Corrin, Olivia Colman, and then Laura Linney for Ozark. So that'll be a little bit tougher, but it's still possible. I mean, John Lithgow did the same exact thing for the SAG Awards 4 years ago for the same show. So he beat Leeds and he was a supporting guy. So long story short, yes, I think Jillian's winning. It's gonna be a great moment for us X-Files fans.
Absolutely. David, do you think that she's got this in the bag?
I think it's pretty close. I mean, close to being in the bag. I have Annie Murphy in second right now, in part because that seems like something they would really do. I know the comedy nominees in this category rarely win. It's really, drama, or a lot of times miniseries movie nominees prevail in this kind of all-encompassing supporting race. But I have Schitt's Creek winning. You were talking about this with the last panel. I have Schitt's Creek winning comedy series, but I don't have any of its actors winning, which is not unheard of for the Globes, but potentially unusual. So I'm kind of anticipating maybe an upset, but I think Gillian Anderson's got it.
And what about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I agree that Gillian Anderson is a very clear front runner just because it's such a showy performance playing Margaret Thatcher. But I do think we have to remember that the Golden Globes like to throw curveballs in the supporting races for TV specifically. I mean, I feel like every time I try to predict this category, the actual winner is the person we have in 4th or 5th place. So, I think there's a scenario where someone like Julia Garner, having won 2 Emmys, they feel like this is a place they can just throw a bone to Ozark, and people wouldn't have too much of a problem with it. Then I could even see that. And look, Cynthia Nixon, I think, was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people, her getting in here. I think she probably had 100-1 odds. I don't really remember. But yeah, I think there's clear support for Ratched. She is very beloved. I mean, Helena Bonham Carter, I wrote an article about her and how she now has 9 Golden Globe nominations and still has not won. So,
wrong.
that could, I don't know why she's always a bridesmaid. I don't know why.
Everywhere, like Emmys, Oscars, and Globes. I mean, and she's just she's just one of the greats. So I'd love to see her win, actually, but not this year. Okay.
Right.
And now after all of that gushing, now watch Cynthia Nixon take it out. So, and also, let's also remember that Ozark, for its first 2 seasons, was only nominated once for Jason Bateman in both years. This year, it's got 4. So that show has gone up, as well as The Crown. That went up to 6 nominations. It's always kind of petered around 1, 2, 3 nominations. It's 1, 2 acting the prizes. And as Marcus mentioned, it didn't win for John Lithgow, but it's won for both queens. So, it's not as much of a lock as we think. Now, on the best TV supporting actor side, after I suffered through some of the CPAC speech from earlier today, when former president, twice impeached, insurrectionist in chief, did a speech, the actor who plays him as a president-elect, firstly candidate Trump and then president-elect Trump, back in the day, the Comey era, is Brendan Gleeson, and I thought he was phenomenal. I'm very happy that he was nominated. The Comey rule itself wasn't nominated, though, so that's problematic. You got Dan Levy. That could be one where they can throw a bone to Schitt's Creek, because we know they don't love that show. I think they nominated it across the board because they want to look cool. Jim Parsons is there as well. They do love him. Donald Sutherland, legend. And then you've got John Boyega, which was a bit of a surprise, but a wonderful performance in Small Axe. That's a really interesting category. I think Brendan Gleeson's going to take it out. What do you guys think? I might go to you first, Marcus.
When I saw the Comey rule, I wrote an article immediately saying Brendan Gleeson is going to win the Golden Globe. So I have to stick to this prediction. But this is a tough category. In a lot of these TV races, I think I'm pretty confident that I know who's going to win. And in this one, it really can be 3 people. I think Dan Levy has a really good shot, and I think John Boyega has a really good shot. And at different days, I'll think someone else is going to win in my head, but at the end of the day, I always am going to stick with Brendan Gleeson, just because it was such an over-the-top but believable performance, and that's so hard to do, to thread that line like he did. And Dan Levy, though, is Schitt's Creek, so I could see that happening. I could see John Boyega winning. I could see Small Axe winning Limited, and then John taking the supporting prize and matching up like they always love to do. So I don't know. I'm sticking with Brendan, but I'm not very confident on this one.
What about you, Kevin? Do you agree?
I think that makes a lot of sense, but just for my own math, in terms of figuring out where they can reward certain things, I do have Dan Levy winning this as the acting award for Schitt's Creek. I mentioned on the Slugfest the other day that he is like that. He's the symbol of the show in some ways. Some would say it's Catherine O'Hara, but he directs and writes and acts and produces, and he's just such a face of the show that I could see them just defaulting to him. But they do really love overt, showy performances over more subtle work in general. So I could definitely see Brendan Gleeson here, or even Jim Parsons as a total curveball.
Yeah, gosh. What about you, Dave?
Well, I won't make it any easier because I have John Boyega, so I guess we're all going. Rob, you'll have to be the tiebreaker. I think Small Axe is probably in their number 2 for limited series. I think Queen's Gambit's going to win, as well as the lead actress. But I think they like Small Axe enough that they want to award its one acting nominee, and it's probably in second place in the limited series race. I could see any of these. I'm less sure on Jim Parsons because Hollywood didn't seem to really land with them at all. But I could see the other two easily taking it as well. These supporting, all-encompassing categories are always so exciting because they're so off-the-wall bonkers. I could even see, we haven't even mentioned Donald Sutherland, but I think The Undoing did really well in nominations. It's going to win. I think it's going to win at least one prize, and I wouldn't be surprised if he picked up the trophy either. He's the veteran of the group.
Right, good point. I think he's won 2 Globes in the past. They love him, and he's got a bunch of nominations. So that's a tough category. I'm just going with Brendan Gleeson because I'll never forget watching the Comey Rule. That was like a wet dream for liberals, right? Just watching that, being in that bubble, so comfortable and warm. And then you get Brendan Gleeson walking in like Jabba the Hutt, and he was so nefarious as the great evil. And I'm speaking sarcastically as a bleeding heart liberal. So yeah, that's going to be really interesting, and God knows what he's going to say if he wins. So let's see what happens. I'd like to pivot to the musical categories, not the comedy musical categories, the music categories, if we could. So start getting that thought process going in your heads, guys, while I just quickly give a little intro to what we're expecting. So in score, we have Midnight Sky, Tenet, News of the World, Mank, and Soul. Really strong group of scores there. And then in song, we have Fight for You, Hear My Voice, ELC, Speak Now, and Tigress and Tweed. So another really strong group of songs. I love the song and score categories. That's always been my favorite at the Globes and even at the Oscars, particularly the scores, because I listen to them all the time. I think that the score category is a tough one because Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are nominated twice. Of course, for Soul, they're also nominated with Jon Batiste. And James Newton Howard is a real, he's a legend for News of the World. Ludwig Göransson for Tenet, beautiful work. And Alexandre Desplat, who is probably the very close frontrunner for The Midnight Sky. So what do you guys think? David, what do you think of both categories? And tell me who you think who's going to win.
Yeah, they are always exciting, especially because, when the ceremony's live and they have all those celebrities in the room, it's just nice to see them commingling with, talent from film and TV, and having somebody like Elton John and Bernie Taupin winning last year is always really exciting. For score, I have Mank. I think, it's a tough call, but I think Riley had mentioned that animated films don't usually win this category. So that's enough for me to just, I just needed something to kind of break the logjam in my mind. So I'm running with that for score. And I have Speak Now from One Night in Miami for Best Song, just because I don't have Leslie Odom Jr. winning the supporting actor race, but they liked One Night in Miami to some extent. It's not in Best Picture Drama, but it's in director and supporting actor and song. So I think Leslie Odom's going to pick up this trophy.
Okay, Marcus.
Yes, I agree with you that Speak Now is probably going to win Best Song for One Night in Miami. It's the most Best Picture-y of all these nominated movies, and that tends to help. Oh, sorry, Trial of the Chicago 7's there. But Speak Now has the Leslie Odom factor, and he's just so red hot right now. And then for best score, I'm actually going with the one I thought was the best score. You know, we often don't do that at Gold Derby. We often just go with all these other things, but no, just pick the best. And for me, that's Soul. When I was watching Soul, I'm like, oh my gosh, the score is amazing. Who did it? I had to go look who did it. So that's what I'm going with and why. And by the way, Chris Beecham wants us to know that the prediction center will close in 10 minutes. So go hurry and make your picks.
Okay, good to know. Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, Soul has won a majority of the Critics Awards so far, so I think it's a pretty solid front runner, probably for the Oscar, but the Golden Globes do tend to go their own way sometimes, which is why I also have Mank winning this, partly because also I don't have it winning anything else on the night, and it has 6 nominations, and I figured that is a place to throw that movie a bone. So yeah, in addition to like what David was saying, as far as you know, animated films tend to not do as well in the music categories very much anymore for some reason. Like even something like Let It Go didn't even win song in 2013. So like, you know, there seem like they have some sort of weird feeling about that. But yeah, and I have Speak Now as well, getting into song as a bit of a consolation prize for Leslie Odom Jr. not winning supporting actor.
Yeah, I think that's pretty smart, actually. I'm going with that too. I was just going with Speak Now because I thought it was actually the best. I listened to all the songs yesterday to just get an idea of where the HFPA might be headed, and I think Speak Now is a pretty good choice. And also, it does give him a prize, not only for not winning supporting actor, but he also was such a massive part of Hamilton, which I think they're also very they love. But I do like all the songs, actually. They're all really strong. The Italian one is really great, and so is the Daniel Pemberton song from The Trial of Chicago 7. And then in the score side, I do think that Alexandra Desplat could probably win that, but I hope it's Tenet. I think that's a really strong score by Ludwig Göransson. That's a score that you can listen to without having even seen the film. It's just it's pretty extraordinary. So let's move on, because I haven't really had a chance to talk about the top category of the night, because we've all been talking about it, because it is a bit of a head scratcher, and I'm sorry to keep using that term, but that's all I got for you at the moment. It's a Monday morning here, and God help me, you're lucky to have me awake. Now, best film drama, you got The Father, Mank, Nomadland, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of Chicago 7. Now, the smart money seems to be on the Trial of Chicago 7, because it's a very Golden Globe-y type film. They do love Aaron Sorkin. I'm going with Nomadland. I'm losing sleep over it, though, because I'm just not quite sure. It just doesn't have the bells and whistles, but it certainly does have the passion. And then, you hear an argument like we heard before, where The Father could do it. You know, Luca, our friend over in Europe, he thinks that it could be The Father. I think he's high. So, guys, I need you to help me on this. The prediction center's closed now, so it's too late. But I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think is going to happen here and why. And I want to hear something really compelling. Otherwise, I'm just going to eject you. So I'm going to go with you.
Me? Oh. Yeah, I also have Nomadland because I do think that it is the front runner still at the moment. We have to wait and see, because a lot of people do have Trial of Chicago 7 just being like, okay, now the critics have had their say. They picked Nomadland, but here comes the industry and the televised awards. Here comes Trial. Okay, sure, I could definitely see that. But I don't think that this is the end of the road for Nomadland. And I do agree with a comment that was said earlier, where I do think it could just win picture and director, like I think 1917 just last year did the same thing. And yeah, but I could really see all 5 of these winning, even The Father. I think Promising Young Woman is such a hot button type of a movie that would get a lot of headlines possibly for it winning. Mank, I could see it, but not as likely. But yeah, I do still very tentatively have Nomadland, and I am also losing sleep over it.
See, it's nice that we're all together, because we're all just as mental as each other, and we overthink this stuff to death. But you know what? That's what we do. Marcus, what about you?
This is a really tough one. Like, you're not exaggerating. 4 of these movies are nominated for screenplay and director. The one that's not is The Father, but The Father has a screenplay nomination.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when is the last time that happened where 4 of the 5 have all of the, the blocks you need to complete the puzzle. And for me, it's between Nomadland and Promising Young Woman. I do have Trial in 3rd place, but I know I've been reading the comments. There's a few other people that have Promising at number 1. So I'm not crazy to think it's possible. I think maybe Riley does too. He's directing this right now, so maybe he can pop in. But for me, I'm going with Nomadland. I'm not brave enough to go with Promising. So I'm going with the default front runner, which is Nomadland, which I actually really, really enjoyed. And usually I don't like the small, intimate type movies. I don't know if Riley wanted to say something or not, but
he just wanted to wait with us. That's it. He's going to be on in a few minutes. He can talk to that when he's on.
Okay.
So big on. Yes. Okay. That's very interesting. You gave me nothing there. Like you basically zero help to me. So I'm going to go to you now, David. Please, can you talk some sense? Thanks.
I just switched to Chicago 7 before the prediction center closed. I had Nomadland for the duration of the run until a half an hour ago. I think really the decision to make is, do the Globes this year want to predict the Oscar races? In which case, I totally buy the argument that it will be Nomadland for picture and director, or do they want to try to set the conversation and crown a new front runner or a potential front runner for picture? If it's the latter option, I think it's either Chicago 7 or especially Promising Young Woman. Like, you can just see the news alert on your phone that Promising Young Woman wins Best Picture at the Globes, in addition to actress. And I definitely have it for actress. I don't think I have it for anything else right now. But I think Chicago 7, I'm going with it right now because it feels like the safe choice of the bunch. It has the right support. It's going to pick up at least another trophy, probably screenplay. It might win supporting actor. I don't have Sacha Baron Cohen winning, but he's probably number 2 right now in my ranking. So it feels like it has the broad enough support and the potential to pick up the most trophies of those, few front runners. So that's my rationale, but I wouldn't be surprised if Promising Young Woman did it, actually.
Okay. Now I'm going to stick with you, David, because we've got a few minutes left to go. And I like to hear, as I mentioned at the beginning, what are you most excited about? What are you beside yourself for? What do you want to see? Take me through it. I'm going to go to you first, David. What is it? Tell me.
I am always most excited with the Globes to see those ranked number 5th people winning the categories. It's so much fun. The predictions usually instantly are in shambles. And then I can just kind of enjoy the show instead of fretting about what's going to happen. And with that in mind, the category that I'm kind of most excited to see, I'm moving away from film for a minute, but the category I'm most excited for is lead actress comedy, because there's so many strong contenders there, with the exception of, Emily in Paris, which I think is out of the running because of the scandal. I would actually love to see Jane Levy from Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist pull off an upset. She's in a musical. They love musicals. She's not a series nominee, but that's probably in 6th for series if it wasn't Emily in Paris. So yeah, I would love to see that happen, and I'd love to see just up and down the list a lot of upsets, because it's just so much fun.
Okay. What about you, Kevin?
I have 3 different things that I'm excited to see. One is just Jane Fonda. I'm very curious to see what she says, because she is someone who's not afraid to speak her mind, and she's been that way for decades and decades. Even before celebrities really felt open to speak their minds, she has been really out there and saying things that need to be said. But also, I'm just curious to see if Sacha Baron Cohen wins 2 Golden Globes in one night. There has never been a male actor who has done that. It's only been 4 female actors that have done that. So I don't know. It's weirdly plausible. And the other is just what I'm always looking forward to, which is the drama film actress category, because I think that is a absolutely phenomenal lineup, having seen all 5 of those performances now, that in a weaker year, I think, any one of them could have been the front runner. And I think Carey Mulligan makes a lot of sense, considering the film did so well. But That's a really, really tough category. I could even see Andrew Day pulling it out just with how that movie just came out, and she seems like someone they could really just be like, here we go. We were the first person to reward Andrew Day. So I don't know. That's going to be really fun.
Fascinating. And final word for you, Marcus.
Very curious, based on the whole controversy that we just went through with the Globes, how much diversity will there be in the winners? If they just, rubber stamp all the white people, they are going to get so much Schitt's Creek from the media, from viewers, from fans. They're not going to recover. So I'm curious how many diverse people will win. Will it be 1, 2, 3? And I hope that they change next year. I hope they just increase their number of members. And if they're giving free Paris trips, who wouldn't want to be a member of this organization?
Yeah, sign me up. Sign me up. All right, I want to bring in our final panel. You guys stick around for a sec while we bring them in. Daniel Montgomery and Riley Chow, our director extraordinaire, who's now going to join us. If you guys are ready, please come in to this very exciting panel that we're running. Okay, here they come. And so it's time then really to say goodbye to David and Kevin and Marcus James. So have a nice evening. Enjoy. Don't forget to, watch all of our great live blog that Kevin's running tonight. We're going to have some really we're going to have a lot of snide and snickering comments tonight.
Bring the hot takes. Yes.
All the hot takes. Otherwise, guys, enjoy the night. Have a drink for me, and we'll see you all later on.
All right.
You too.
All right. So I've got Riley. I don't know what's happening with Daniel. Hopefully he's joining us shortly. But in the meantime, good to see you, Riley. Thank you so much for all your hard work behind the scenes directing. Here he is. There's Daniel. So there's been a bit of complaining, guys, in the chat about how we're complaining about how the Globes are so non-diverse, and yet this whole time this a bunch of white guys. So thankfully we saved the best till last, really. You've got Riley Chow and Daniel Montgomery and myself. We're in 3 different countries, and
let's think of this as the back of the pre-show bus.
The back of the pre-show bus, and that's okay. So look, we have talked to death about the diversity stuff, and to be honest, I think we've said everything we need to say, but I'm quite happy for each of you to have a quick hot take if you'd like to. Daniel, what do you think of the double controversies and how they're going to be dealt with tonight?
I don't necessarily think they will be dealt with very much. Like, as has been said many times before, like the Golden Globes have kind of had this open secret about, being, getting parties and being flown out places and getting gifts and getting access and sort of, controversial nominations from that, like The Tourist, and like it's Ricky Gervais brings it up every time he hosts. So it's like, if they haven't changed now, I don't see that they're going to feel a need to, because it's their little kind of club, and because it's so small and insular, and because it has such an outsized influence on the awards conversation, since it's this big televised award ceremony with millions of viewers, I'm not sure. Like, they might put out a statement saying, like, we're going to, strive to make this better, and maybe they will hire a black person to join the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. But that's basically going to be it. And they're just going to continue business as usual, because it's been working for them. Like, this group of 87 people, they're doing pretty well. So unless there are like real consequences, like, potentially like NBC dropping them, that's not going to happen. Or I don't see much incentive for them to change, because they haven't been concerned about the optics for decades. So I don't know why now would be different, except maybe, okay, we'll add a black journalist to fly to Paris with us to set visits.
That's right. As you mentioned, we've mentioned it earlier, the Golden Globes have a disproportionate influence in the industry. They just do. And whether we like it or not, people pay attention to what they say, what they choose. And so we hope that this expose by the LA Times will hopefully see them slightly more diversify their membership, given they are an international foreign journalist group, you would expect to see people from all corners of the world. And so that it's a good thing that it's come out. It's a terrible situation, but hopefully it will be rectified. Riley, what about you? Before we move on to our more lighthearted topics, what do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's really coming out now. I feel like we talk about this every year. It's not news to anybody who's ever heard of the Golden Globes. We know that they're, kind of racist, kind of sketchy. We don't really know where they come from. We don't really agree with their votes. We don't think their votes are credible. Yet it's all a game that we just play, and why would we stop playing it? Because, even this year, the people who are talking out are not real, or speaking out, are not really the ones who are nominated so much. They're happy to get nominated, and then the next year they'll trash the Globes. Gary Oldman is the best example, where he kind of famously, said many disparaging things about the Golden Globes. And then a couple of years later, he was in contention for Darkest Hour. So then he started to play nice. He went to all their parties. He won the Globe. He thanked them. So last I checked, that they were on good terms. But now that it's cool to, talk about how wrong the Golden Globes are, I'm sure he's, well, actually, no, because he's nominated this year, so he can't say anything bad about them. So that's the cycle that we're in. In the spirit of the Golden Globes, I have dressed up again in this campaign shirt that I have. This is a this is a shirt that we got a few years ago from the Ash versus Evil Dead Emmy campaign.
I got that shirt too. It is very comfortable.
Yes, it is. As we were talking about how the swag that we get, it's kind of grotesque, but it's fun. So also, look, I just will also address transparently. It's really regrettable that none of our women on our staff and our freelance journalists who are women were able to join us today. That wasn't intentional. It just unfortunately is how it panned out. So although we try to be as diverse as possible at Gold Derby, sometimes things just don't quite pan out that way, and we're sorry about that. So let's move on to other stuff, because we don't really have a lot of time. We have talked a lot about Best Film Drama. I really want to spend some more time on other stuff, but before we move on, let's talk about the most important category of the night, so to speak, and it's also a category that is very difficult to kind of pinpoint what's going to happen. Riley, apparently you have Trial of Chicago 7 in 5th place, and people, particularly Gabriel Paver, would like you to explain.
Yeah, I don't think I do. I think I have it in 3rd. Hopefully, that was registered properly in the prediction center. I do have Promising Young Woman in 1st place. Like I said the other day, I think that this is really a 3-horse race. We've got Nomadland, which is probably winning for Chloe Zhao, and then we've got Trial of Chicago 7, which will probably win screenplay because they love Aaron Sorkin. And it's just kind of odd that we're all so set on Carey Mulligan definitely beating Nomadland in lead actress, and we're not really considering Promising Young Woman as much in the film category, even though it is a film that people love and they nominated across the board. Like, I keep thinking, like, oh, Promising Young Woman is just another Lady Bird, or it's another Get Out, or it's another Joker. But it actually did better than all of those films in the nominations. It got into director, which is historically a category in which they really nominate, older white men and big names. So they didn't need to nominate it there. And they also moved it over from comedy into drama. So they made it extra challenging for themselves to, recognize this film. And it seems like they're still up for the challenge. So.
What about you, Daniel?
I've got Trial of Chicago 7 winning, but I'm not much more confident than anyone else is. Like, it's an unusually evenly matched race because all 5 of the nominees have between 4 and 6 nominations. There's not a huge difference in terms of that kind of support. They're all nominated for writing. All but one is nominated for directing. They're all nominated for acting. So there's not many places to look in terms of a sign that something is stronger or something is weaker. I feel like because this is a very open year, and the Golden Globes like to sometimes hedge their bets in terms of, they want an Oscar winner presented with awards at their show. I think because Chloe Zhao is so far out front. I feel like for Best Director, I feel like much stronger front runner for directing than it is for picture. I think they might go with A Trial of Chicago 7 for Best Picture Drama. And, then they'll have Minari for Best Foreign Language Film, which is another film that's a potential Oscar winner for Best Picture. So they'll cover their bases like every single place potentially. And it's not unusual for a film to win Best Picture without many other awards. Although I think Trial will win Screenplay as well, and could win Supporting Actor. Moonlight had no other wins. Babel had no other wins. 12 Years a Slave had no other wins. They all won Best Picture Drama and nothing else. So if the Globes want to really kind of cast a wide net, especially in such an uncertain year, I think that might be how they do it.
Okay, let's move on to some categories that we haven't addressed yet before we finish
Rob,
up.
can I jump in here? We keep getting this comment, where's Helly? Have I just completely forgotten somebody at Gold Derby? Who are we talking about there?
I have no idea. Some of the comments where I just shake my head and just think, okay, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so let's talk about the actual Golden Globes. So let's talk about Best Drama Series and the 2 drama acting races. We haven't done that yet. Maybe because a lot of people already think The Crown is so strong, particularly for its acclaimed season 4, that it's just going to win everything. I know you guys don't necessarily think that's the case. I actually do. I think The Crown's going to win everything that it's nominated for, obviously apart from actress, which it's nominated twice, and supporting actress is nominated twice. So I think it's going to be Best Drama Series. I think Josh O'Connor's going to take it out, and I also think that Emma Corrin's going to win. So I'm really excited about that. I'm a huge fan of The Crown. I thought the 4th season was its best yet, and I don't think I'm alone there. I think a lot of people will agree with me that it's an amazing show, and I think this is just the HFPA just falling over themselves to give The Crown lots of awards this year. Daniel, what are your thoughts on the 3 main drama categories on the TV side?
It's tricky because we know the Golden Globes love new shows, and if they give it to an older show, it's usually a show that they haven't recognized before, like that when they went with Breaking Bad and The Americans for their last season. Those were the first times they'd ever won. The Crown won for its first season. It's already awarded to Queen Elizabeth's, Claire Foy, and Olivia Colman. Like on paper, it shouldn't be the front runner in terms of what the Golden Globes usually go for at this stage in a show's run. But the fact that it has more nominations this year than it has ever gotten in a single year, and that it's so significantly more than any other show in the category. Ozark is next in line with 4 nominations, which is up from the last couple of seasons when the Golden Globes really didn't like Ozark that much and just nominated Jason Bateman. So I'm going with The Crown just because it has that support. I feel like we could see something weird happen if they do decide like they'll award the Crown actors, but maybe give drama series to something like buzzier and newer in terms of like just being a new kid on the block or a newer kid on the block, like a Mandalorian, which has no other nominations, but it's not a show that's easy to find another nomination for at the Golden Globes because its lead actor wears a helmet 90% of the time, so you never even see his face acting. So it's possible that show has more support than we think because its total nominations is a little bit not reflective of maybe affection for the show. But yeah, I'm going with The Crown by default. I've got Emma Corrin winning. I think she's the cool kind of newcomer who's going to take that. Though I do think actor will go elsewhere. I think I have Jason Bateman winning just because they've nominated him a couple times before, and this time they actually backed the truck up to the rest of the show. So I think he'll take that one. I do think Josh O'Connor has a shot. I also think Matthew Rhys has a shot. They didn't nominate Perry Mason for Best Drama Series, but he is Perry Mason on the show, so I can imagine that being one of those rare wins without the series nomination, like Rami Youssef or like Rachel Bloom for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, also playing title characters on their show. So potentially that could happen. So I think it's between those 3.
Okay, so I want to move now on to the Best Actress and Best Supporting Actress on the movie side. There's 3 categories there. We haven't really touched on Best Film Actress in detail yet, and so I think that's another one that's killing me because, you know, I have a feeling Carey Mulligan's going to win that one, but Viola Davis would also be a really great contender to win. And then in the supporting actress side, that's a tough one because Maria Bakalova is probably a front runner, generally speaking, in the awards race, but I think she'll win the comedy actress category, so it's a bit confusing. And then you've got the people who remain in a really wide open race. Could it be Olivia Colman, who's never lost a Globe, or you know, could it be someone else who takes it out instead? I'm a bit confused. So I'd like to go to you first, Riley, and take us through the 3 film actress categories.
Okay. Yeah, so I've got Carey Mulligan, you know, as we all do. I think could very easily be Frances McDormand, because, you know, she did win just a couple of years ago. She did not win for Olive Kitteridge, so it's not like they give her the award every time like they do with Olivia Colman, who I am predicting in supporting actress. I think Olivia Colman is also going on to win the Oscar, and I think The Father has just been underestimated all season. I think now it's very interesting where some of the public are actually getting to see The Father, and I haven't heard, you know, a single bad thing about it. And then in the, you know, film comedy actress side, I've got Maria Bakalova, and, you know, I guess Rosamund Pike is having a late surge, but in theory, there shouldn't really be any late surges with the Golden Globes because there are only 90 of them, you know, or 87, and it's very easy to crowd them all to watch a film before nominations. It's not like, you know, SAG or the Oscars or any kind of larger group where you're going to have people watching things in waves. If something misses a nomination, it's probably because they, you know, didn't think it was worthy of a nomination as opposed to just low visibility.
Okay. What about you, Daniel?
I will say I do think there's a possibility for a late surge just because I don't think the Golden Globes are, I mean, what they think about a film is probably not going to change, but what they think about what everybody else thinks about a film or a TV show might change, and they might be swayed by that buzz of like, ooh, people are really liking this Rosamund Pike performance, and you know, we really like it too, so we can take care of Borat X, Y, and Z over here and over there, and so I'll vote for Rosamund Pike here. I think that's possible. Though I do think of those actress categories, Maria Bakalova is probably the safest frontrunner, just because they liked Borat so much more than they liked any of those other films. The only other nominee in this category with the Best Picture nomination is Kate Hudson with Music, and that ain't happening. Of all the buzz that and backlash that they do not want to hear or receive at this point, they're not giving that a trophy. If they do, it would really be the ultimate like middle finger up to like the rest of the press and the media. Just like it would just be like, you know, screw you, this is our movie, we liked it. So I think Bakalova wins that fairly, not a lock, but I think she's the safest. And then Carey Mulligan I think is going to win. I think that race was decided on nominations morning when that film got the picture and director and screenplay nominations. And Ma Rainey didn't get picture, director, or writing. It just got the 2 acting nominations. Nomadland did get exactly the same nominations that Promising Young Woman got, but that film is very likely to win directing, and I can see that being where they reward the film. And if it wins Best Picture, Frances McDormand is a producer. So, and she just won for 3 Billboards just a few years ago. So there's no real like urgency to get her back, giving another acceptance speech again, just like 2 or 3 years later. So I think Carey's got that. Supporting actress is the real crapshoot. I've got Amanda Seyfried right now because, you know, they love Mank. It's the most nominated film. I don't see it winning anything else except maybe score and possibly director. I think it has an outside shot there. But that'll be a place to reward it. Although Olivia Colman has never lost and they loved The Father. So I think that's also very possible. And I still don't know what to make of the Glenn Close thing, because they did the Glenn Close thing a couple of years ago. They tried to get her on her way to the Oscars, and it almost happened, and then it didn't. So are they going to go for Hillbilly Elegy just to kind of put her on the Oscar map? They didn't like anything else about the movie. She's the only nomination. So I'm going Amanda. I think it's one of those three, but that's all over the place.
Yeah, the Glenn Close thing is really curious to me because I still have a bit of PTSD about her loss. And I thought Olivia Colman deserved the Oscar, but just, I felt really bad for Glenn Close and all of her fans and supporters in the industry as well, who really want to see her win an Oscar one day. And this could be another chance for that to happen, although it's in a film that is not as well received as The Wife, Hillbilly Elegy. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting case if she does win the Globe tonight. There'll be a lot of talk about Glenn Close being on her way to the Oscars, and I just don't want to be set up for more disappointment. Not for me personally, but just for the people who really love Glenn Close and want to see her win. I've left one category till last we actually haven't spoken about yet, and it's probably the category I'm most excited about. Not because I'm surprised about who's going to win. I think we're all pretty clear, but it's still exciting, and that's Best Director. There are 3 women nominated in Best Director. That's never happened before. I hope that we see that at the Oscars as well. I think that this should be more common. It should happen every year now, where we have at least 1 or 2 women, hopefully, not necessarily as a quota, but hopefully women are going to get more opportunities to direct really, really strong films. So we have Emerald Fennell, David Fincher, legend, Regina King, award magnate in her feature directorial debut, the great Aaron Sorkin, and Chloe Zhao, who directed Nomadland, and people seem to be loving her the most. So I think she's going to win. I think Chloe's going to win this one. I think it's pretty clear that she's the favorite. But wow, what an exciting category! And the one thing that I would say before I let you guys speak is, if one of the men win, not going to be a good look at all. And by the way, they wonderful.
They didn't even nominate any men of color.
Right, but putting aside the Black, Indigenous, people of color situation, because that's a whole other kettle of fish and just a hot mess. But if we're just thinking about women in the industry now, come on, man, let's get them to win one of these, and let's get a woman to win the Oscar ultimately as well. Okay, guys, what do you think before we have to go? I'll go to you first, Daniel.
I think Chloe's going to win. I think her closest competition is probably David Fincher, who the Globes like. He won for The Social Network. And Mank is the showiest of these films in terms of the directing, the way it recreates the look of 1940s movies. But I really feel like the narrative around female directors, directors of color, not having as many opportunities in the industry. The fact that this is going to be, in all likelihood, the first year in Oscar history when there have been multiple women nominated for Best Director. There have only been 5 women nominated in the entire history of the award. Catherine Bigelow is the only winner who was a woman. So I really feel like that, like, no matter what happens to Nomadland in Best Picture throughout this season, I feel like the narrative for Chloe Zhao is really strong, and the film has been well liked enough to be scoring all the nominations it needs for her to get that win in Best Director. It's getting Best Picture everywhere, Best Actress, Best Screenplay. Chloe wrote the film, directed, edited, produced. She can get a bunch of nominations this year. So yeah, I think it's her. I don't think it's a 100% lock, but like I said before, I think she's safer for Best Director than the film is for Best Picture, which I'm predicting that's going to trial.
Okay, and what about you, Riley?
Yeah, I've got Chloe Zhao. She's won pretty much every directing award this season. So I think this is kind of less about needing to award a woman and more just about how she has won everything so far. So why would she stop now? They nominated her film for screenplay, and it's not really a very writerly film. There's a lot of silence. They did the same thing with Roma. That also won director. They awarded Boyhood in director. They awarded 1917. I think they're very okay with awarding these kind of more director-driven films in the Best Director category. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Now, final question before we go, so that we can all get a quick bathroom break before the show begins. What are you most excited about? We've all had a crack at what we are most excited about. I'll tell you what mine is in a second, but I'd like to hear from you guys first. Who would like to tell us first what you're most beside yourself about?
There you go, Daniel.
It's this season is so all over the place, and the Golden Globes as an organization is kind of dicey right now. So it's hard to say what I'm looking forward to in terms of like winners. Although the idea of seeing Carey Mulligan get started on an awards run tonight would be just extraordinary. I've been a fan of hers since even before in education. So I think this is a long time coming. So I'd love to see that. I'm looking forward to Amy and Tina as hosts. I've never been that big a fan of Ricky Gervais's hosting, but so I feel like Amy and Tina bring exactly the right balance of that kind of edge, but also that kind of warmth. So I'm thinking that will be good, and I think they'll be very good at dealing with whatever the pandemic format is. That they'll be able to play off of the strangeness of the whole night.
Okay, and Riley?
Yeah, let's see these speeches from Ava DuVernay and Sterling K. Brown, and whoever else wants to throw the Golden Globes under the bus. That sounds fun.
Yeah, it does sound.
Oh, that will be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too.
That's going to be really fun. I'm actually and apologies to everybody. We didn't really go into detail on screenplay.
There's still time.
There's still well, there isn't really, but okay. How about just in 10 words or less, each of you? Do you want to tell me screenplay and an animated feature? You first, Daniel.
The Trial of the Chicago 7 and Soul.
Thank you, Riley.
Sorkin usually wins.
Yeah, and Soul. You think Soul's got the animated feature one wrapped up?
I mean, who knows? Last year, after last year's Missing Link win. But, let's just say that Soul has it on lock.
Okay, good. Okay, great. So, look, I'm most excited about just enjoying the show. As I said earlier, I love the surprises, the crazy stuff. I want to see Gillian Anderson win because I'm a huge fan of her performance. And I'm looking forward to the comedy. I want to see Tina Fey and Amy Poehler really make me laugh. I always enjoy Ricky Gervais's performances at the Globes and all the other hosts that we've had. I think the Globes is a fun night to have. So, and we need that. We need a bit of fun. We need to have a laugh. We've had a pretty rough year. Everybody has. And I'd finally say that I disagree with some of the people in the comments about 2020 being a bad year for film. I thought 2020
was a great year for film, given the circumstances.
I've already seen almost 70. About 10 more to go.
These guys, here we go. So they're muted. So I'll back up the comments and I'll say that this is the worst year for film that I've seen.
Oh God.
You are insane. No, I thought it was great. I'm struggling to get my top 10 because I've got like at least 30 films vying for my top 10. I thought it was a great year for film. So you can all you're all wrong. Okay. But look, that being said, thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Like all of us at Gold Derby really enjoy putting these live shows on. We've got another one coming up at the end of the Globes that Matt Noble, my compatriot, Matt Noble is hosting, and that's going to be sensational. So please join us for that. In the meantime, enjoy the show. We've got Kevin Jacobsen's live blog, and then we're all going to be writing some great articles after the show as well. So stick with Gold Derby because you know that it is the best place for awards coverage on the planet.